Hello and welcome to Earth Echoes with Amber Fields. I am Amber Fields, and this morning I would like to read another piece on a topic that I agree with so much. The COVID era really changed my political views, a lot of my world views, and woke me up to a lot of realities that had only been hinted at previously. And so this piece is titled Demonized in the Time of COVID and the Stage It Set for Global Division, which I really feel like that's where we are right now. We're so divided, and we need to remember that we're all humans. And if we're going to get anywhere positive, we need to stop the division. And this piece is by Jason Gray. The COVID years were not only a medical crisis, they were a spiritual and societal crucible. What began as fear of a virus quickly morphed into something much darker. A culture of dehumanization, scapegoating, and exclusion. For those of us who stood outside the demands for total compliance, the message was clear. You are the enemy. Looking back, it is undeniable that those years set the stage for the world we now inhabit. Divided, polarized, radicalized, and teetering on the edge of freedom's collapse. The great demonization. When I refused the vaccine, I was no longer seen as an individual with thoughts, feelings, and rights. I was branded with labels like selfish, dangerous, grandma killer. I was barred from restaurants, gyms, travel, even family gatherings. I was shunned by friends I had known for decades, verbally attacked by strangers, and condemned by the media as part of the problem. It was never really about health. It was about control. The relentless propaganda trained millions of people to see their neighbors as enemies. It trained them to accept exclusion as safety. It trained them to obey unquestioningly. From pandemic to polarization, that same machinery of demonization has not gone away. It has simply shifted targets. The culture that blamed the unvaccinated for the pandemic now blames dissenters for every societal ill. If you question authority, you are called extremist. If you speak of faith, you are labeled intolerant. If you demand freedom, you are branded dangerous. The polarization we see globally is no accident. It is deliberate. Governments, media, and ideological movements have learned the power of fear to divide populations. The same tactics used during the pandemic, shame, exclusion, scapegoating, are now weaponized in politics. Citizens are conditioned to see half their nation as enemies, to despise anyone who does not share their worldview. The stage is set, nations fractured, neighbors distrusting neighbors, families split down the middle. The radicalization of the new normal. Perhaps the most shocking legacy of the COVID years is not what governments did, but what ordinary people became willing to do. People who once lived quiet, decent lives, friends, co-workers, neighbors, were radicalized by propaganda. They cheered when others were excluded from public life. They called for harsher punishments, louder restrictions, deeper compliance. They mocked and shamed those who dared to resist. They surrendered their compassion to ideology. What drove them? Fear, stoked and manipulated until obedience felt righteous. But obedience to what? To a narrative crafted not for health, but for control. This radicalization has not ended. It has metastasized. Many who once demanded lockdowns and mandates now demand censorship, silencing, and punishment for those who resist the prevailing political orthodoxy. They no longer see freedom as a God-given right, but as a threat to their safety. The assault on God-given freedoms. The result is a world where freedoms once considered sacred are now treated as negotiable. Freedom of speech has been twisted, smeared as hate speech whenever it contradicts official narratives. Freedom of belief is mocked, particularly faith in God, which the radical left portrays as outdated or dangerous. Freedom of assembly has been replaced by permission slips from governments, granted only to those causes deemed acceptable. Freedom of bodily autonomy, once a rallying cry of the left, was abandoned the moment compliance became politically useful. These freedoms are not privileges granted by governments. They are rights endowed by God. And yet, the radical left has made it their mission to strip them away, brick by brick, under the guise of progress, safety, and inclusion. The global divide. Today, the world is polarized not just by politics, but by worldview. Those who still believe in freedom and those who have been conditioned to fear it. This is why divisions feel so much deeper than policy debates. They are spiritual divisions. On one side are those who know freedom is God-given, inseparable from human dignity, and on the other side are those who see freedom as a threat to be managed, controlled, or eliminated. The pandemic years were the testing ground. They proved how easily populations could be divided, how quickly freedoms could be stripped, how eagerly ordinary people could be turned into enforcers of ideology. That lesson has not been forgotten. It is now the blueprint for every future crisis. What must be remembered? The scars of those years are permanent. Friendships lost, families fractured, dignity denied. The media will never admit its lies. Politicians will never apologize for the cruelty. Many who cheered for exclusion will never confront their complicity. We must remember. We must speak the truth of what happened, because if we do not, the same script will be used again. Perhaps in the name of health, perhaps in the name of climate, perhaps in the name of democracy. The details will change, but the goal will not. Obedience, control, division. Never again. The COVID years taught us how fragile freedom is, how quickly compassion can collapse under fear, and how deliberate the forces of division truly are. We must say, never again. Never again will we accept demonization as safety. Never again will we allow propaganda to pit us against one another. Never again will we surrender our God-given rights to the false promise of control. The world we leave behind will not be defined by the fear of a virus. It will be defined by whether or not we had the courage to resist the lie. Jason Gray. I can really relate to a lot in that piece, and I think it's very relevant after Charlie Kirk's death, after his assassination, because he held a lot of views that the radical left see as dangerous, and he was killed for speaking his truth, and that's something we cannot tolerate in America. I can't believe how I was treated during COVID for being unvaccinated, and the places that I was told to stay out of, and the people that told me to get off their sidewalks and out of their stores. This shouldn't be happening in America, and we can't let the forces of evil divide humanity. We're all humans, and I see us as all innocent. We've been subjected to intense, intentional propaganda, and we need to wake up. Because if we don't, we're going to lose all of the freedoms that we enjoy in this country and we love and that we're founded on. So I think we need to take a long, hard look at ourselves and move forward with compassion and love, even for the dissenters.